in human health and disease in this chapter, first of all, we will communicate with the point that is known as the immunity. What is meant by immunity? What are the different types of immunity? Then, what is the structure of the antibody that fight against the different diseases? Then, different types of human diseases like the protozoan disease, malaria, amoebiasis, then nematode or Ascalmesis disease like Ascariasis, filariasis, the bacterial disease like the typhoid, pneumonia, and viral disease like the common cold, dengue, pneumonia, AIDS, coronavirus nowadays. Then, last but one topic that is the cancer, different types of the cancer. There are different reasons, biological, physical, etc. Then causes of the cancer and their treatment, etc. Then last point we will discuss about different types of addiction like smoking, drugs, as well as the alcoholism. Then in this way, this chapter will be in. The first point that is the immunity. The immunity, what is meant by immunity? Immunity क्या होता है? Immunity, it is the ability of the body to destroy the foreign material like bacteria, virus, and their different parts like protein, lipids, or any other chemical that causes the harmful disease to the human body, that is known as the immunity. So immunity, it is the fighting powers of our body, we can say directly. Then in this, what is the immune system now we have defined? Then there are two important types of the immunity. Our body, it fight against the foreign material or the pathogen in two different ways, in two different manners. First one is the by means of innate immunity, and second one is the acquired immunity. The innate immunity, ये क्या होता है? What is the difference between innate and acquired immunity that we will study now? Okay, the immunity, that is, it is the fighting of foreign material by using the first line of defense and second line of defense that comes under the innate immunity. It comprises different types of the barriers like physical barriers, then the physical barriers, physiological barriers, then complement factors, cellular barriers, cytokine barriers, and complement system are the different types of the innate immunity that we will communicate here. Then acquired immunity, it comprises the two different types, that is the active and passive acquired immunity. Then we will discuss detail about all these types of the immunity. Now, innate immunity and acquired immunity, what is the difference, main difference between these two? Okay. For studying about this, you should consider what are the different criteria to differentiate between innate and acquired immunity. The first one is the innate immunity. It is the natural body immunity that present by birth. Okay, like our body layers, different body secretion, the temperature of the body, the acid present in our different body parts, oil secretion, etc. That is the natural body immunity comprising in the innate immunity. The acquired immunity, it is not present by birth. It is acquired passively or actively after birth. When our body comes in contact with different types of pathogen, our body acquires that is immunity, is known as the immunity after birth, that is acquired immunity. Innate immunity, it is present by birth. In born immunity, we can call it as. Then acquired immunity, it develops after birth. That is important one. The innate immunity, it is the first line and second line of defense mechanism, while the acquired immunity, it is the third line defense mechanism. ये दोनों बहुत important point है, आपको याद रखना है. For this innate immunity, no any exposure of the antigen required or foreign material is not required. Any type of foreign material, when it is entering into our body, it has to be fight, or it has to be face the innate immunity first. That is the first line and second line of defense mechanism work upon or fight upon the pathogen. That is the innate immunity. It first of all fight against the pathogen. Then acquired immunity, that is, it requires the previous exposure of the antigen to our immune system. Why it is required? Our immune system, it activates then only the antigen comes in contact with the immune system. Immune system के साथ जब हमारे पैथोजन सबसे पहले स्टिमुलेट करते हैं, तभी हमारे बॉडी में इम्यूनिटी स्टिमुलेट होती है, एक्टिवेट होती है. Without any exposure, the immunity cannot be developed against any antigen. Therefore, previous exposure is required for the formation of the acquired immunity or stimulation of the immunity. Therefore, the acquired immunity is known as specific immunity, while innate immunity, it is non-specific. It works against any type of pathogen. That is first line and second line of defense mechanism. It works against any type of pathogen. Therefore, it is non-specific immunity. But acquired immunity, it requires the previous exposure. Therefore, it is very specific one. Okay, it requires means this acquired immunity, it is fight in the form of the specialized glycoprotein known as the antibodies against the specific antigen. Therefore, acquired immunity is known as the specific immunity. Then these are the some important points. Now, the important last but one point that you should consider, the innate immunity, it comprises the first line and second line of defense mechanism that involve different types of the factor like physical barriers, that is physiological barriers, cytokine barriers or cytokine complement system, as well as the cellular barrier. But the acquired immunity, it is the third line of defense mechanism, and third line of defense mechanism, it involves the participation of B and T lymphocyte cells. It means the WBC cells, like white blood cells, including neutrophils and macrophages, they comes under the innate immunity. But acquired immunity, it involves the participation of B lymphocyte and T lymphocyte. That is the third line of defense mechanism. Now, these are the few important differences between innate and acquired immunity. So let us discuss about the in detail study about the innate immunity and acquired immunity. Now, as I told you, the first line of defense mechanism that comprise in innate immunity, it includes the different body layers, that is the skin, the mucous membrane, then mucus and cilia, nasal hair, saliva secretion, sebum, lysozyme, gastric juices, then the vaginal secretion. These are the first line defense mechanism. These are the parts that comprise in the non-specific innate immunity, that is the first line of defense mechanism. Then second one, that is the second line of defense mechanism, it involves the participation of different types of phagocytic cells, as well as the temperature, inflammatory reaction, natural killer cells, interferons, complement system, etc. Now, interferon, about this interferon, many times the questions were asked during different types of examinations. Interferons are the proteins that produce against the infection of the viruses, that is known as the interferon. ये क्वेश्चन पूछा गया है, नीट में भी पूछा गया है, इसे याद रखना. Then this first line and second line of defense mechanism, it comprise in innate immunity. Okay. Then third line of defense mechanism we will study later. Okay. That how does the involvement of T and B lymphocyte that develop the memory specificity, okay, in our immune system, how it is. Then let us discuss about, we have discussed what is meant by immunity and what are the different types of what are the differences between innate and acquired immunity. Then let us discuss about the second point, that is the first type, that is the innate immunity. Let us discuss the thorough discussion about the innate immunity. Then innate immunity, it works by means of different barriers. Innate immunity, no doubt, it involves the first line of defense mechanism and second line of defense mechanism. And these are known as the barriers of the immune system or innate immunity. तो ये कौन से डिफरेंट तरह के बैरियर्स है जो इनेट इम्यूनिटी में पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं? फर्स्ट लाइन एंड सेकेंड लाइन ऑफ डिफेंस मैकेनिज्म वाले बैरियर्स कौन से है? These involve the physical barriers, physiological barriers, cellular barriers and cytokine barriers. इन सभी बैरियर्स के बारे में कभी ना कभी क्वेश्चन पूछा गया है और इसे आप सभी को याद रखना है. The first barrier, that is known as the physical barriers. How does this physical barrier come involved in the first line of defense mechanism? The different types of the physical barriers, it involves the first line of defense mechanism that include द ब्लॉकिंग ऑफ द एंट्री ऑफ द पैथोजन। तो सबसे पहला जो फिजिकल बैरियर्स है इसे डिस्कस करेंगे। फिजिकल बैरियर ये क्या करता है? इट ब्लॉक्स द एंट्री ऑफ पैथोजन। ये पैथोजन के एंट्री को रोकता है, तो उसे हम फिजिकल बैरियर्स कहेंगे। एंड दिस फिजिकल बैरियर्स इट इन्वॉल्व द डिफरेंट स्ट्रक्चर्स like the different layers of the skin, mucous membrane, respiratory membrane, the vaginal membrane, digestive membranes. All these membranes, they act as the physical barriers, that is first line of defense mechanism. Then now the skin, it acts as a physical barrier, that is innate in the first line of defense mechanism of the innate immunity. Then now the epidermal layer, it contains the stratified keratinized, that is stratified keratinized epithelial tissue that acts as a lining, body lining, the protective body lining. Below this one, the dermal layer, it is present that contains the sebaceous gland and the sebum gland. The sebum gland, it secretes the oily secretion, and this oily secretion, it protects, it blocks the entry of the, that is pathogen. तो ये इंपॉर्टेंट बात है। ओके, सो सेबेशियस ग्लैंड का जो ऑयली सिक्रेशन है उसे हम सेबम कहते हैं, जो स्टिक कर रखता है पैथोजन को, जो इंटर होने नहीं देता। देन फिजिकल बैरियर्स, द अनदर फिजिकल बैरियर्स, इट इन्वॉल्व द different types of the cell layers that present along the respiratory tract, along the trachea and bronchi. Now these are the pseudostratified epithelial tissues that acts as the physical barriers that bears the ciliated epithelial tissue, columnar tissue, that continuously beats, and so that they 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 flow outside the mucous substances through the respiratory tract outside the body, with that sticks the pathogen with it. Now in this way, the different body lining, it perform the excretion or the expel outside the mucus secretion with the sticky substances, and that sticky substance, they are attached with this sticky substance, the pathogen, they are attached. Now these are the physical barriers, different body layers that involved in the avoiding or block the pathogen. Next one is the hairs present in nostril that filter the dust particle as well as microorganism, the mucus coating of the epithelial lining, as well as the respiratory and gastrointestinal lining, it also bind the pathogen. The mucus present in this layer that trap the or entrap the microorganism, and that propel the microorganism outside the body by continuous beating of the ciliated columnar epithelial tissue. Now, this is the physical barriers. Now, if we see our elementary canal, this elementary canal, it comprises the different layers like serosa, submucosa, muscularis, and mucosa. Then to enter the pathogen have to be passed through these different layers, and it is not easy to pass through these different layers for the pathogen. Now, second one, the physiological barrier. The physiological barrier involves the participation of different types of abiotic factors like the body temperature, pH, and various body secretions that prevent the entry of many pathogens. So, जैसे कि आप सभी को पता है, the food item that containing pathogen, when it is passing through the alimentary canal, when it enters into the stomach, then inside the stomach, the HCl, hydrochloric acid, that is secreted by the gastric glands, that is peptidyl cells, then these gastric gland, that is HCl secreted by the gastric gland, they digest the body of the microorganism. Now the secretion of the stomach that digests the acidity of the stomach, it digests or kill the microorganism. The second one, the secretion of the lacrimal gland is known as the lysozyme, that is present in tears, as well as it is also present in saliva of digestive gland. It kill the digestive, it kill or digest the pathogen. Now, ये था हमारा that is the physical barriers, sorry, physiological barriers. Then the body pH. The pH of our body also avoid the growth of different types of the different body organism, different pathogenic organism. Then second one, body temperature. You might have been experienced that whenever we are suffering from any type of infection, our body temperature it increase. Okay, it go beyond the 40 degree, and in such a temperature, the pathogen they are not able to survive. Therefore, our body, the pyrogen are the chemicals that increases the body temperature, so that so that the so that the pathogen they are not able to grow, because pathogen they grow only when the sufficient temperature is present. Then we know that the bile juice secreted by the gallbladder, that is the liver, synthesized in liver and stored in gallbladder. Then these bile pigments and bile salts that secreted into the intestine, it also inhibit the microbial growth in the intestine. The different types of skin secretion like oil and sweat gland, they perform the antibacterial and antifungal. They avoid the fungal and bacterial infection. They act as the sebum. The oily secretion secreted by the sebaceous gland is known as the sebum, and this sebum, it acts as an antifungal and antibacterial substance. Then, in this way, the physiological barrier it involves different types of body secretion, pH, and temperature that avoid the entry of different pathogens. Then, third one is the cellular barrier. Cellular barrier it involves the participation of different types of WBC cells. It involves the participation of phagocytic polymorphonuclear leukocyte that is known as the neutrophils. The neutrophils of the blood cell, known as the micropolicemen that kill or destroy or phagocyte the pathogen. These cellular barriers, it acts as a second line of defense mechanism. You should know about this, okay? Then the different physiological barriers uh, uh, that involve the different types of secretion like the saliva, sebum, lysozyme, gastric juice, vaginal secretion. These all these all are the first line of defense mechanism. Means the physical and physiological barriers are the first line of defense mechanism. Then cellular barriers, it is the second line of defense mechanism that involve the participation of different types of the WBC, like polymorphonuclear leukocyte. It is known as neutrophil. Then monocytes, it get modified into amoeboid cell known as the macrophage, and that macrophage, it phagocytic in nature. It destroy the foreign substances non-specifically. No doubt, ये जो ये जो डिफरेंट तरह के phagocytic cell है, these phagocytic cells, they are non-specifically kill or destroy or phagocyte the pathogen. Okay, therefore it is the part of non-specific, that is innate immunity. ये बात याद रखना है आपने. So macro, that is polymorphonuclear हो गया है. Monocyte, that is the monocyte, it becomes amoeboid and it is known as macrophage. And when this macrophage, अब इसमें एक आपको क्वेश्चन पूछा जाता है, कई तरह के मैक्रोफाजेस है, ठीक है. When this macrophage, when it is localized in connective tissue, when the macrophage it localized in connective tissue, that macrophage is known as, उसे हम क्या कहते हैं, that is known as histocytes. Histocytes या histiocytes कहते हैं. Then when these macrophages, when they are localized in liver cell, that is known as, बच्चों इस पर कई बार क्वेश्चन पूछा गया है, that is known as Kupffer cell. आपको ये बात पता है, that is known as the Kupffer cell. तो ये सवाल कई बार पूछा गया है, इसे याद रखना. When these macrophages, when they localize in the bone, it is known as osteoclast. Blast is the forming cell, clast is the destroying cell. Then when it is localized in the brain or nervous system, that is known as microgliocytes or microglia. Microgliocytes or microglia. Now these are the few examples where these macrophages where the macrophages they localize, then the respective type of the name is given the different types or respective type of the cells or body parts. तो ये पॉइंट याद रखना है, इसे हम कहेंगे that is the cellular barriers. All these cells are the phagocytic cell, okay, of the macrophages that kill or destroy the pathogen. Now, the second point, that is the natural killer cell. नेचुरल किलर सेल्स के बारे में आपको बताना होगा. दिस नेचुरल किलर सेल, दीज आर द नॉन स्पेसिफिक लिम्फोसाइट्स. ये नॉन स्पेसिफिक लिम्फोसाइट्स होते हैं. दे प्रोड्यूस द परफोरिन टाइप ऑफ द प्रोटीन दैट फॉर्म द पोर्स इन द टारगेट सेल. ये नेचुरल किलर सेल जो होते हैं, ये क्या कर सकते हैं, ये हमारे एबनॉर्मल सेल को, या सपोज अगर कोई सेल एबनॉर्मल है या उसे किसी पैथोजन ने, अगर ये सेल अगर एबनॉर्मल है या फिर इसे किसी पैथोजन ने इन्फेक्शन किया है, such type of abnormal or pathogenic or infected cells, they are killed by the formation of non-specific perforin proteins, and that perforin proteins are the secretion of this natural killer cell. This natural killer cell, it destroys such type of abnormal cells as well as the infected cells to avoid the conversion of normal cells into the cancerous cell. Therefore, in this type of immunity, innate immunity, the non-specific destroying of the abnormal cell or infected cell by the natural killer cell, that is the non-specific innate immunity. So these are the different types of the cellular barriers that participate during the non-specific immunity. Let us discuss about the next one, that is the complement system. ये क्वेश्चन पूछा गया है, इसे याद रखना है. Complement system, it involved the participation of different types of, near about 30 different types of the serum proteins. That is the production of the production of different types of complement proteins. And this complement protein, what they do, they perform the lysis of the microbes. The formation of complement system, it is one type of cascade mechanism. Cascade mechanism होता क्या है, आप सभी को पता है. जैसे कि अगर कोई ऐसे ताश के पत्ते या कोई चीज ऐसी रखी गई है, अगर किसी एक चीज को अगर हम स्ट्राइक करते हैं तो वो बाकी सारी चीज को वन बाय वन एक साइकिल कंप्लीट हो जाती है. तो इसी को कहते हैं कैस्केड. सो कॉम्प्लीमेंट, दिस कॉम्प्लीमेंट सिस्टम, द कॉम्प्लीमेंट सिस्टम, इट वर्क, इट इज द कैस्केड प्रोसेस. Okay, that's the cascade process in which the formation of the serum proteins occur in a cyclic manner, in a specific manner, and this complement system, it takes part in both innate as well as the acquired immunity. So इसे याद रखना है, it is the second line of defense mechanism, it is non-specific one, and these proteins, they create the pores on the surface of the microbes. ये microbes के membrane पर pore form करता है. कॉम्प्लीमेंट सिस्टम ये ऐसे तरह के प्रोटीन्स है जो क्या करते हैं, जो इस माइक्रोब्स पर होल फॉर्म करते हैं, और जब इस माइक्रोब्स पर होल फॉर्म होगा तब बाहर का जो एक्स्ट्रा सेलुलर सब्सटेंस है वो सेल के भीतर इंटर होगा और वो इस सेल में प्रेशर पैदा करेगा, और ये जो पैथोजेनिक सेल है वो बर्स्ट हो जाएगी, वो डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाएगी. सो नाउ दिस वन इज द कॉम्प्लीमेंट सिस्टम. ओके, then last one, that is the innate immunity का last part, that is cytokine barrier. The cytokine barrier, it involves the different types of the protein factors like the interleukin that is secreted by the leukocyte. It involves other important mechanism that is known as the inflammatory reaction. This inflammatory reaction or response that develop after injury to the internal or external body part. Then this inflammatory responses, it is characterized by the formation of redness, heat, swelling, irritating, pain, okay, at the site of infection or at the site of injury. तो जिस जगह पर इंजुरी या इन्फेक्शन होता है उस जगह पर क्या होता है, at that site the secretion of the one important chemical that is known as histamine. Histamine, it acts as a, we know that this इस inflammatory reaction के बारे में हमने आपको पहले भी बताया है. Suppose Suppose the injury occur at any one site or infection occurs at any one site. When this infection or injury it stimulates the mast cells of the connective tissue, then this mast cells it secretes the different types of the important substances, chemical substances like the histamine and prostaglandin. Then this histamine it acts as a vasodilator. Histamine it acts as a vasodilator. ये क्या करता है? The capillary it dilates and results in the increased blood flow, and therefore now this, अब आपको पता है कि the permeability of which capillary or permeability of which blood vessel is greater, whether this A or B. Okay, absolutely. The permeability of B1 is greater than A. Why? Because due to this, due to the dilation of the wall of the blood vessel, the WBC they squeeze outside the blood vessels by performing the amoeboid movement is known as diapedesis. Therefore, in this case, at the site of the injury, due to the diapedesis process, the under the stimulation of the histamine, the blood vessels get dilated, and through the dilated blood vessels, the macrophages and other different WBC cells, neutrophils and macrophages, they squeeze outside by performing the amoeboid movement at the site of injury. When these blood phagocytic cells they come at the injured part or infected part, they start to digest, as well as the natural killer cells also participate here. They start to digest and kill the infected cells of our body cell as well as the pathogenic or foreign material. Therefore, that region becomes red, as well as after the digestion it becomes whitish and the pus is formed. Now, in this way, the region of infection and site of the pathogenic destruction is become it becomes swell. That is known as the inflammation. That is the inflammatory reaction. तो इस तरह से inflammatory reaction जो cytokine barriers कहलाती है, ये एक important point है. Then second one, interferons. What is this interferons? Interferons are the protein factors that glycoprotein produce after the infection of the virus. Okay, वायरल इंफेक्टेड सेल इट प्रोड्यूस द इंटरफेरॉन. बच्चों ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है. अगर किसी सेल को वायरस ने अगर इंफेक्शन किया है, if this cell is infected by the virus, then this cell it gets stimulated and their genome it start to produce the one glycoprotein, and that glycoprotein is known as interferon, and this interferon it start to digest or kill the pathogen. Okay, that is the वायरसेस. तो ये इंटरफेरॉन जो है ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट है. इस पर क्वेश्चन भी पूछा गया है. डिफरेंट तरह के एंटीवायरल जो ड्रग बनाए जाते हैं तो वो इंटरफेरॉन के कॉम्प्लीमेंट प्रोटीन होते हैं. इंटरफेरॉन के ही ग्लाइकोप्रोटीन के डेरिवेटिव होते हैं, इसे याद रखना. देन इट ये कॉम्प्लीमेंट प्रोटीन क्या करते हैं, ये इंटरफेरॉन क्या करते हैं? दिस इंटरफेरॉन दे avoid the infection to the neighboring cell. They inhibit infection to the neighboring cell and they inhibit the viral multiplication in the infected cell. Infected cell में viral के infection को ये multiplication से रोकते हैं, साथ ही जो neighboring cells है उस neighboring cells को भी protection देते हैं virus के infection से. तो ये काम होता है interferon का. So in this way we have completed the part of the physiological barrier, physical barrier, cellular barrier, as well as the complement system. That is, we have completed here the innate immunity. Okay, so इस innate immunity पर कभी ना कभी कई बार क्वेश्चन पूछे गए हैं. Then second part that is the acquired immunity. चलिए तो second part हम डिस्कस करते हैं. लास्ट के 1 मिनट बचे हुए हैं, तो आप सभी को acquired immunity डिस्कस करने के लिए यहाँ पर हम ओके नेक्स्ट सेशन स्टार्ट करेंगे. So immunity इनेट इम्यूनिटी हमने डिस्कस किया अभी थोड़ी देर पहले. इसे इनबोर्न या कॉन्जेनिटल कहते हैं. एक्वायर इम्यूनिटी ओके जिसे एडेप्टिव या स्पेसिफिक इम्यूनिटी कहते हैं, उससे अभी हम डिस्कस करने वाले हैं. इसके दो डिफरेंट टाइप्स है. ओके, दैट इज एक्टिव एक्वायर एंड पैसिव एक्वायर इम्यूनिटी. तो एक्टिव और पैसिव इन दोनों में रेस्पेक्टिवली दो डिफरेंट टाइप्स हैं. ओके, दैट इज नेचुरल एज वेल एज द आर्टिफिशियल. ओके, नेचुरल एज वेल एज आर्टिफिशियल एक्टिव, नेचुरल एज वेल एज द आर्टिफिशियल पैसिव. ठीक है, तो इनके बारे में हम डिस्कशन करेंगे। तो लेट्स ज्वाइन। ओके, here we have completed the lecture. Now you have to join for communicating